Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for you. I can hear you very good. Can you see the screen?
Yes, I'm just looking at the screen. So to continue with just the discussion session, this document is a document that is in progress. It is under development by the Ethiopian Shelter and the NFI cluster to ensure adequate beneficiary registration, targeting, and response process. So it is the Shelter and Fire Cluster SAG members are reviewing this, including Rosalba from our country office. So there are some packages that we have to look at it and ensure in our day-to-day operation while just responding to different kinds of humanitarian response programs we had. When we say this is just SNFI targeting documentation, it is not only for this for the SNFI activities we had, but it is also useful for any kind of humanitarian or livelihood response programs that COOPI is going to have or implementing as of now, as well that we may plan for the future. So as you can see from the introduction, this guide has a number of sections, but it is aim is to support the uh, humanitarian organizations on how to deliver quality, accountable response to the affected population. It can be shelter and fight, it can be livelihood response programs, it may be any DRR, natural resource management, any kind of humanitarian response programs we had have to be more open, transparent, accountable. So the aim is to ensure that one, the details has its own points and also sections to be followed. While doing this kind of operations or humanitarian operations or just development interventions, our response has to be people-centered. We have to operate in due collaboration with the affected population, with host communities, with beneficiary selection committees, anyone who is involved in this process. At the same time, we have to protect the affected populations from any kind of harms or impact that our response may have. So we have to avoid those kind of things that may happen. Our response has to be also evidence-based. What we are doing has to be always recorded. We have to record how we have done, what we have achieved, what is the positive or just results of our operation, what were our limitations. All these things has to be properly documented for the future programming, for learning as well as for future programming. So this guide is aimed to ensure these processes, and while doing so, we have to be, open, transparent, accountable, and coherent. That means, the package, everything has to be, integrated and compiled to achieve, the overall activity objective as well as general organizational mission. So here, as I said, uh, the goal for the clusters are just indicated there. They are two, but as just I put it also before, this is not only for the cluster. Just we are just discussing on this how we can also take the same way of doing things for other interventions too. So just when we are just discussing on this one, it's also good to know how we can also. It's also good to know just check how we can also relate this way of doing things also to other type of responses we have. So as a cluster, we have two objectives. The first one is to ensure, it is to ensure the crisis affected people have timely access to adequate shelter and essential household items so that they can live with health, security, safety, and dignity. This is the first cluster goal. So while we are doing our response, one, we have to timely respond to the needs as much as we can. On top of that, we have to also make sure that our response is dignified. The beneficiary's security, health, and the safety is not something that we have to compromise. So we have to ensure these things are well put in place. So timely response as well as dignified way of operation to the affected to ensure the interest as well as safety security of affected population is one of the goals that the cluster has set. Second one is to reduce the harm caused by displacement, singular or serial. When we say here, when you say singular, you know, there are, at some places there might be the displacement rate might be may not happen in a single place. It might be in a multiple sites or in different locations. So as much as we can, we have to try to respond to the needs of the affected population wherever this need is happening or wherever there is a problem of such kind as far as resource permits. So while also doing so, maybe we have to cross-check. We have to cross-check. Sometimes some responses might be organizational driven. Some of them might be the government driven. Sometimes maybe drone driven response might be there, but overall our response has to center the affected population, the people in need. So while programming our response, we have to make sure that we are just planning what the people mostly need. The activities package we are just integrating into the project has to be aligned with people's primarily needs or concerns as much as we can. Next, these are just the introduction section of the cluster. Next to this, we'll proceed with the targeting steps. But if you have some reflections on the introduction section, we can just brief on those things more. Then we'll continue to the targeting steps. Over to you.
So
Sam.
thank you. I think it's best because we don't really have time. Zoom is not helping us. I think we can move ahead and leave the questions. If you have any questions, you can write them on a piece of paper and you can ask them at the end of the meeting. What do you guys think? Yared, what do you think?
Okay, it is up to the team. So if we agreed on this, we can proceed with the targeting steps. Okay, thank you. About the targeting, there are 4 steps that we usually do. We'll just brief them step by step. So this way of operation is not something new for COOPI or for COOPI staff, but it is just to reflect back and also just improve on some of the aspects that we may have limitations. So this is the area that everyone I would like to also reflect, which are the areas that we lack, or has gap as well, which are the areas we are strong enough that we have to just do the same further. So about the targeting steps, the first one is introduction and the geographical location. So while introducing and identify geographies, there are 2 ways of doing things. One, usually we request shelter NFI cluster for area allocation or area identification. Most of the time, the national shelter cluster will identify priority areas that has the highest needs. So usually we have to consult the national or regional subnational cluster to let us know where are the areas with ASNFI gaps or any kind of response needs. After having this, at the same time, it is also always important to consult relevant authorities at zonal or local level. And also it's good to, if there are clusters, for example, most of the time, if you take the example of Guji, there is zonal SNFI cluster there. So consulting zonal cluster coordinators to understand who is responding where, as well as which are the sites that have the gaps, which is not addressed, is always important. So ensuring communication both with the cluster leads, zonal, regional or national, as well as local communities to check and identify those put areas is very much important. We have to ensure this is happening. Second one is, it is a continuation of this one. once we just identify the geographical locations, we also have to introduce our just objective. That means our response has its own objective. So we have to introduce this one as well as our scope. Most of the time we introduce objective or our response plan, but we lack to properly letting people know our scope. When you say scope, it is our response capacity and the coverage. So people may expect a lot from our response, but we always have to let them know what are our capacity really is. So with this we will avoid or reduce unnecessary expectations, or some kind of misunderstanding. So always it's good to let people know what our objective is, what our scope of response scope is, and the related things. The third one, we have to meet, once we did the discussion briefing session with the authorities at Warada zonal level, then we have to also go down to the targeted or the proposed IDP sites. At this place, we have to communicate with IDPs or returnee host communities, whoever is involved in the process. We have to consult them, we have to discuss with them. We have to also let them how many households we are going to target, what are our targeting process, selection, verification process, and everything, as well as the type of activities we are going to provide or the type of response we have. For example, when you say SNFI in kind, we have to brief it in detail. When you say cash, we have to, always we have to provide clear information about the package of that specific activity. So sometimes we say, there is a PDM asking, for example, whether we have conducted beneficiary consultation meetings or discussions prior to the distribution. These are the areas that we have to also improve. The more people know what kind of response plan we have and what are their entitlements, the more they are coming back to ask for clarification in case we are not fulfilling that. So always we have to know, we don't have to make things more generic. Hello?
We can hear you clearly.
Yeah, I saw a message from Umar. So in case,
Now, I think some people cannot hear you because of the connection, but everybody can hear you clearly.
okay, thank you. So always we have to make sure that detailed information is provided to the affected population following the response plans we have. If not, information barrier will lead to misunderstanding, as well as misunderstanding by itself will impair also our smooth operation. At the same time, it may also increase the level of grievance or feedback or complaint the affected population may have against the organization or response program. So this has to happen. While explaining this, it's not only just briefing the package of the response, and we have to also let them on the beneficiary selection criteria. What are the procedures that we have to follow to ensure the right people is selected in the right manner. We have to let them know also the project time frame, when it's going to start, when it's going to end. All these things has to be also informed in accord. Same time, when we are setting also beneficiary selection committees and that, we don't have to only work with the government authorities. Most of the time, our real practice is that we go to the Kabbalah authorities, we will ask them, we will consult them to form beneficiary selection committees. They will list out a number of people, male, female composed. But the selection of the beneficiary selection committee doesn't have to be this way. It has to be inclusive of both the affected communities representative as well as the government authorities. If we are only taking the beneficiary selection committees from the government authorities or Kabbalah administrations, the level of error may be there, or they may just list out individuals who are close to them, but may not represent the IDPs well. So while selecting the beneficiaries selection committees, we have to make sure that both the affected population is present, as well as representative of the government authorities are there. With this, the voting has to be exercised by the affected population, not by the Kabbalah authorities. So we have to, at later stage, you may just reflect on this, how we are doing, but we have to be really take care of this one, because this is the element that will increase the level of our quality, or also at the same time impact our operation quality, because these selection committees are the one, providing us with the list of people that has to be supported. So any error happening here is not something easily manageable, because sometimes manipulation of information is there, sometimes threatening also operational stuff is there, as we all know. So unless we are clear enough from the very beginning, then our operation may be in a difficulty, or may not control things in a professional manner. So we have to take care on how we are selecting the beneficiary selection committees. So at the same time, when also we are selecting the step 2, once we discussed, all these things as an introduction at the first step with those who are concerned, the next step is to process the beneficiary selection committee, following the criteria. Most of the time, those we know. As you can see from the slide, there are around 8 or 9 beneficiary selection committee criteria. So please, since we will share you this selection criteria, always try to ensure and include them in your TORs that you are sharing to the coordination office or to your team. So the first level is introduction of the project package. Once we did that, then we have to continue with establishing beneficiary selection committees. The first.
Everybody, please mute your microphone. Don't make me mute you by myself, please.
Who is Toshiba?
We don't know, but I think it's an internal discussion. Likely one of the field staff. I've muted them. Please continue. And just a reminder, everybody, if you have a question, we encourage asking questions. A Q&A session will be held at the end of the presentation. Always mute your microphone. Please carry on.
Okay, thank you, Simon, the team. So as you can see here, the recipient selection committee, that means beneficiary selection committee, has to be composed following those points that we have also discussed before, but specifically has to compose the following teams. One, a representative from the implementing agency has to be there. I have seen comments from Rosalba. For this one, at least 2 person is suggested. For example, if COOPI is the implementing agency for shelter NFI, let's say in one warada, within that committee, 2 COOPI staffs has to be part of the team, part of the beneficiary selection committee. As we know, as we all know, most of the time we say the beneficiary selection committees are the community members, but that doesn't happen anymore. So in every beneficiary selection committee, members, at least 2 staff of COOPI has to be present. If there are male female staff COOPI has for this operation, 1 male 1 female is just recommended. But if we didn't have female staff, we may assign 2 males, or if we didn't have male staff, we may assign 2 females. But at least gender composition has to be ensured also while assigning COOPI staff. Overall, at least 2 staff from the activity implementing agency has to be part of the beneficiary selection committee. Second, beneficiary selection committee member has to be 1 representative from the government, mostly from the Kabale. As we usually operate, this is happening. We are just taking 1 government representative. It may be Kabale admin or Kabale manager or someone else that can represent the Kabale. We have to ensure that someone from the authorities, from local authorities is there. The third one is at least 1 representative from young group. At least 1 representative from young group has to be there. Sometimes we may say, elders, this and that, but since most of the time we expect people we want people who are all wise enough to also share informations among, but always also maintaining the composition, and the dynamics in terms of age, sex is considered, the better it may have also a good way of reflecting opinions and providing feedback as well. So we have to make sure that the young generation is also included in this selection committee membership. Then we have to also include one person from people with special needs. For example, these days we are just including a number of households with specific targeting process. For example, while we are just providing SNFI for certain number of people, we are also just taking 50%, 15% of the total to provide kits for people with disabilities. So while we are, providing this, I don't think we are ensuring, one member from people with disability or with any kind of special needs is included in the beneficiary selection committees. So always please make sure that representative from people with special needs. This may be chronically affected, chronically ill people. This may be physically impaired or just people with physical disabilities are there. Maybe any kind of uh, issues may be there. So we have to make sure that representative of people with special needs is also being part of the beneficiary selection committee. The the fifth one is a male and a female representative from IDPs has to be also there. When we say this one, before we have said, youth groups, a representative from youth has to be there. At the same time, male, female who are, adult enough has to also take part in this selection process. A representative from active women groups, as we said before, use maybe here if there are women groups, women committee. For example, while we are doing CCM activity, most of the time we will establish youth groups, women groups, different working committees, as well as general camp management committees. So someone from that representing group, if there is a specific group operating in that targeting location, we have to also include them to be part of the beneficiary selection committee. Then a representative from a minority group, if any. This one is a bit sensitive in our country. We cannot say this one because it's not possible to determine who is minority, but this we may not take this into account, unless there is any. For example, if there is a specific naming saying that these groups are minority, we may just consider. But when you say minority, the interpretation may be also different. Maybe some may just give us further guidance on this. Maybe minority, it may be in terms of capacity or something else. I don't know, but we'll discuss on this point further. But someone from this kind of group, if there is any available, has to be considered. Then a representative from the host community has to be also part of the beneficiary selection committees. So these individuals has to be part of the beneficiary selection committees all along. As we know, in the past, while composing our beneficiary selection committee, we are indicating, elders, people who have acceptance by community, something like, but that is not clear enough. So it is an issue of package. It's not an issue of being mature, being. But the more we ensure the dynamics within the committee, the better it is to reflect different groups and also ensure and yeah. Next slide, Sam. Next one. Yeah, this one it is a next slide, Sam. We'll come back to this diagram. So the third step, once we just formed the beneficiary selection committees, as we usually do, we'll proceed with the registration process. So the registration process, once we did, clear briefing about the project package and the scope. Once we just clearly formed the beneficiary selection committees, then the selection committees will start the beneficiaries registration. So while doing this, the selected or the people who are going to be selected has to be the affected populations, following clear selection criteria. So we have to ensure that's happening. So we have to have effective communication strategy. That means sorry, 1 minute, please.
Yes, hi, Yared, thank you so much for the progress so far. I have to share a new link to everybody, and I will send the link at the same email I sent earlier. Since we have 3 minutes left, I'm hoping everyone can now, if it's possible, can now exit this meeting and wait within a minute. The new link will be shared and we can continue. Yared, what do you think?
Okay, sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
everybody please log out and in your inbox, the new link will come in 1 minute. Everybody please log out. Perfect. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so much,
everybody.
everybody.
Please mute
Please,
microphones. Thank you so much, everyone. This is the part 2 of the session. And we are live. Over to you, Yared. Okay, I unmute you.
Nice to see you all. Hello.
Hello, welcome back. Sorry for the inconveniences. It is for a reason. We may explain in brief, maybe some other time. Overall, now the third step during the process is the registration. We all know this one. So maybe here we have to also brief some of the scenarios we are just facing all along. Especially our responses, sometimes they are specific to IDPs. Sometimes they are also both for IDPs and host communities. But as we usually know, when displacement is happening in a certain area, the affected communities may also be directly or indirectly impacted. So unless we consider the needs of both IDPs and the hosting community, sometimes conflict of interest may arise. So always we have to make sure that the registration process we are going to do for targeting has to also be consented and also discuss with the hosting community to avoid this kind of tensions in between, because most of the time they may develop reservation grievance, saying that while we are impacted due to this displacement or influx of people, the market price increment and other things for the sake of supporting the IDPs. Sometimes they may not be happy only while we are just fully addressing IDPs alone. So always we have to make sure that during the need assessment, if there is any need that has to be supported to the hosting community, we have to assess that one and provide information. At the same time, so we have to work on this one. We have to make sure the relationship between the hosting community and affected population is not impacted because of our response. Then, during the registration, as we have also reflected before, effective communication is very important. Without communication, everything might be, an issue. So always during the registration process, we have to communicate the targeting process, the complaint feedback, sharing mechanism, the monitoring platform, and other things has to be properly shared. Making this happening will create harmony in our response, harmony with the communities, harmony with authorities and other stakeholders that are working with us.
Thank you so much, everybody. This is the final part, number 3 and final. It is about the beneficiary registration template and the complaint feedback. We now go back to Mr. Yared. And before we actually go back to Mr. Yared, let's acknowledge the amount of expertise, the delivery, and the patience this man has. The following 30 minutes is the last 30 minutes we have. Please clear your minds, and here we go. You want to remove it?
Okay, thank you very much.
Mute.
Thank you very much. We are just sharing you this beneficiary registration template for unification. Just during our recent field monitoring mission to some of the project target areas, we have identified some inconsistency on the beneficiary registration template. So at country office, we have just slightly revised the templates that we have been using in the past. So after end of this meeting, we'll share you this beneficiary registration template. So this template is not only for ASNF activities, but for every activity, especially distributions and any related activity we have to use this beneficiary registration template at country level. So despite this is example for ASNF activities, you can change the areas that can be switched to livelihood or any other program activities that COOPI has. For example, if there is agriculture activity, the sections will remain the same. Some of the sections will remain the same, but there are some areas that will show you that might be edited based on the type of activities you have. But overall, this is a beneficiary registration mostly we are using. So the first section, it has to have the name of the full name of the household that we are supporting. After that, we have to always ensure the name of the spouse is included in the beneficiary registration template. As you know, most people they fill this part, but we have to make sure that this part is being filled. If the household has a spouse, we have to fill the name. If it doesn't have, we have to also indicate as it doesn't have. Not applicable or not accessible has to be filled there. If it has, the name has to be put. If not, we have to say not applicable. Then place of origin. For example, if it is for IDPs who just displaced from one location and reside in another location, we have to report here place of origin. If they just displaced from, let's say, one warada to another one, we have to mention the origin of place they are displaced, and then we have to also indicate the date of their displacement. For example, those people may displaced before 3 months, 2 months, 4 months, so we have to indicate when they are displaced from their place of origin. Then we have to also indicate date of settlement in the areas that they are residing now. We have to also write that. Then we'll continue with the identification of household people, person with disability within that family. So if there is, we will say yes. Then we have to also, we'll just correct the next section. If we say yes, we usually have categories of disabilities within a given household, so we have to write that one. If it is physical disability, if it is neurological, if it's sensorial, the categories that we usually refer has to be reported. We cannot say yes only, but we have to also identify the type of disabilities that person may have. It may be physical. If it is physical, we have to report physical. If it is neurological, we have to say neurological. The type of disabilities has to be reported there. We'll give you the choices in a court. Then the sex of that household head has to be reported. The age has to be reported as usual. Total family size has to be reported. Then the age disaggregation is there. The standards we are using, starting from new born child to more than 50 years of age, it is already there. So we have to report all these elements because there are also pointers that we have to also report to the donor. Then the target village or the village that the IDP is present has to be reported here. Then the Kabale has to be reported. Finally, one of the new elements that is added here is to report also the telephone number of the beneficiary household. So we have to report here the beneficiary household's phone number as much as we can for those who have the phone number, or that person, if he doesn't have the phone number, we have to also put his relative phone numbers. So we have to ask, alternative ways. If he has, we will put the phone number of that target household. If he doesn't have, we have to look for his relative phone numbers. If not, we can also put the Kabale or local authorities or beneficiary selection committee's phone numbers that we prefer to put. So we have to indicate this. Then we have to also reflect what type of response we are giving. If it is SNFI, we say SNFI. But if being also SNFI itself has categories. So if it is volume 1, volume 2, depending on, we have to also reflect. The one you see here in red, SNFI volume 1, because of package, sometimes there are different. So we have to specifically put here. If it is also, let's say, voucher-based livestock treatment, we can say voucher-based livestock treatment. If it is just dry land seed provision, we'll say dry land seed provision. If it's like, providing agricultural tools, we can say agricultural tools. So we have to indicate the type of response we are just supporting. Then signature of the Kabale authorities designate has to be there. Then signature of Warada authorities has to be there. For every individual has to be signed. Then signature of, if there is implementing partner working with us, it is signature has to be there. For example, we are doing now in Guji zone with SNF activities. One of our partners there is called MIH. So if they are supporting and the operation in beneficiary selection verification process, they have to sign also on their behalf on the beneficiary registration file. Then COOPI staff or designate signature also has to be put there. Then finally, if there are any remarks, you can put your remarks at the final section. This is slightly updated beneficiary registration template, and it has to be used for every activities we have in COOPI Ethiopia. So based on the activity types you have, you can contextualize not the package, but if there are areas that you have to edit, like for this one, for example, food kit content. Here you can edit this part. but the rest for registration of responses or beneficiaries you have has to be kept as they are. But while you are also distributing responses, everything that you are handing over has to be reflected. As you are seeing here, if it is here on the first registration form, we have put it generally saying SNFI volume 1, but for the distribution file, we have just split it based on the kit package it has. So if you see here, the same household name will be transferred, his age will be transferred, sex will be transferred, then person with disability will be transferred. Then these are the kit components, for example, for SNFI kit volume 1. So if it is another type of items you are giving, you can change this part based on the type of items you are providing. Then below there are quantities. For example, plastic, if it is 2, you have to report 2 for every beneficiary. If it's rope, if it is 1, you have to reflect everything that you are handing over to the people in need. So this So, for example, so every item we are providing, we don't have to put general naming. We have to specify on the distribution file. We have to specify the type of item we have given and also the quantities. So if we are just providing blankets, we have to name it blanket. Then we have to also put the quantity. If it is 2, 2. If it is 1, 1, we have to reflect this one on the distribution file. So finally, beneficiary telephone numbers, Kabale authorities designate signature, and other signatures has to be put as usual. So these are just some of the documents. We are just slightly revising. If there are some elements that also to be checked back, we'll check and we'll just share you finally. So we'll use the same beneficiary registration and the items distribution template for a number of activities we have, whether it is SNFI or livelihood or any other kind of response we have. We'll use the same beneficiary registration and the reporting template for the way forward. Thank you. This is from my side. I will let Umar let Dr. Molu to present you the complaint and the feedback registration template now on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you have learned something today, it's okay to write in the chat. Thank you, Yared, our trainer in coordination office.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We are now moving to the final part presented by Dr. Molu. Stay in the meeting. Stay in the meeting, please. Just give us 1 minute while shifting the screen. Can you share the screen?
It says host disability.
I got you. I got you. No issues. Just don't do anything yet. Give me a moment.
Is there a person called Nurati?
ያሬድ
አቤት አቤት
ጥያቄዎች አንድ ሁለት ጥያቄዎች ነበሩ ነው። መቼ ነው የምትመልሱልን? ጥያቄ ጊዜ የመልስ ጊዜ የለም?
አለ አለ ሞሎ ያቅርብና እንቀጥላለን።
ጁማም መስጊድ ልንገባ ስለሆነ አፍጥኑት፣ ሰላት አለብን።
We apologize. We know it's Friday. 10 minutes. 10 minutes maximum. Hopefully, Dr. Molu can deliver. Dr. Molu, over to you.
Thank you all. Can you hear me? Hello? Just move.
We can hear you.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
I think you should.
Need that one.
I think you can use this one.
Which one?
The laptop, this laptop. Maybe come.
So I think I have to share again.
Yes.
It says the same thing. You are now past. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Can you hear me, colleagues?
Yes, yes, Molu, continue. We are hearing you. Continue.
Hello?
Yes, Molu, we are hearing you. Continue, continue.
No response from them.
Because it's muted. Remove it. It's muted. I mute them all. We can hear you.
Okay. So I can't hear them. So thank you very much. This is, as you know, as Yared presented, when we do beneficiary selection, distribution, anything, there is an accountability part. So we have to be accountable to our beneficiaries and also partners who with whom we are working. I am going to share with you two templates. One, the one that you can see on the screen, feedback and complaints form. In this form, you will use to register the complaints. Complaints about registration, about distribution, anything. You have a place to register what type of complaint it is. So you will use this one for register. Okay. Click view.
Admit all.
Admit all.
Okay.
This was the, I haven't heard it.
No, it's fine. I can hear you.
Okay. Now, in this form, you can see the complaint or feedback number. Maybe you don't have to write the name of the complaint because of, so maybe the complaint is maybe confidential. So to keep the safety of the person who is complaining, just we keep, even if you write for your own, you don't have to disclose that one. Just you write the complaint or feedback number. For example, here you can say 01 or 02 or 03. You know it. For you, when you write complaint number 03, 02, for example, there was another complaint before this one. So just you can use this one as a serial number of your complaints. You received one before, and this one maybe the second one. You put the gender of the person who is complaining, the age, and disability, whether this person is disabled or not, because some complaints may be related to persons with disabilities. Maybe the person feels something then against him or her because of having a disability. So we have to register this one. And the location, site, Wareda, village, because of, if you don't register, if you don't have the exact location of that person, maybe to give the feedback, it may be difficult. So you have to register this site and method of complaint receiving and feedback. As you know, there is no a single method to receive a complaint and also give the feedback because it is contextual. Maybe what work for women may not be work for men, and vice versa. For use for elderly is different, and also religion, it can be a factor. Even, for example, what works in Somali region may not work in Benishangul Gumuz. The method of receiving and complaints, it can be through committee, it can be face-to-face. So you exactly record what methods of complaint, receiving, and feedback method you used. Because why do we register this one? Later on the second format, we will report all this information. So during registration, during recording or registering the complaints, you have to record all this information. Then you go to the number one, which is a complainant or user to be filled by the complaint or feedback receiver. That means you identification code assigned. You assign a code for this complaint. Look at column C, which says BG Matakel 2. Just it is my own code, just to say Benishangul Gumuz Matakel complaint number 2. This is the code. You can randomly, you can your password, mobile password as code, so that you don't forget that person. You can use, for example, you can put the name of the Wareda as first letter, then Kavele second. It's up to you to give the code. It is only you who knows this one. So you put the identification code assigned to this complaint. Then number 2, name and sector. When you receive a complaint, you put the project title, which project. Maybe we are implementing multiple projects in that area. So from which project this complaining is coming and which sector. We have WASH, we have shelter NFI, food security and livelihoods, and also with partners like, for example, health and nutrition. So just don't put only the project title, you have to also put the sector of the complaint. Then type of complaint, select to which macro category the complaint or feedback refers to. There are some lists around, as you can see, from row 19 to 22. There are lists like relevance of the action, resource timing, effectiveness. Is it about management, how we manage the delivery of our activities, or miscommunications, or timeliness, for example. Difficulty of understanding of what we are doing, or others. The list is endless. So these are just samples. you put what you think the category of that complaint. So you write it. That is why it is called other. Specify. You list whatsoever it is, and you categorize according to you know. Then you go to description of complaints or feedback. You describe the complaint you received under this title, description of complaint or feedback. Please annex additional paper or drawing if required, if requested. You can put not only what you write here, you can attach other documents that are related to this. For example, you may receive some letters from Kabale because in relation to this complaint, so you attach it to support your complaint. When I say this, sensitive information that may harm the person who is complaining may not be attached. You keep it with you, but only you attach if it is not going to cause any harm to any party for the organization and also to the complainant. So you identify, I think you have to be serious whether the information or the additional information may be or files you receive may be pictures. It says also drawing. For example, if you receive a photo of someone with injuries, maybe attaching that and sharing the report to some third party may not be recommended. So you know the event, you know the fact, but be careful for such kind of happenings. So when we say additional annexes or papers can be attached, you have to be careful for the sensitivity of the issue. Another one is describe your expected outcome or response. Once you receive and described the type of complaint, then what next? What type of response are you going to? For example, this example says the complaint is, are they gone?
No, we can hear you.
Everyone is.
Everybody can hear you.
Okay, I've got 12. So this example, for example, says the complaint is about the quality of the. This is what I wrote. It was taken from just my perception, not from any project. Don't take it as something. So the complaint is about the quality of the kitchen sets received with a particular concern on the cooking pot. If, for example, a beneficiary is not satisfied with the quality of the cooking pot, so you have already got the idea about what the complaint is. So just you suggest what would be the outcome. After checking the quality of the items with the project manager or procurement officer or logistic, the feedback will be given on 25th of August 2023. Just this is what would the outcome would be. So you have already received that there is a quality matter, quality issue. Then the feedback will be, maybe you can tentatively plan the date and the procedure that you are going to follow. This is how you are going to describe the expected outcome. Then you have to go to the consent part. The person who is complaining has to sign that he or she agrees with this statement. By signing and submitting this complaint or feedback, I accept the procedure by which the complaint or feedback will be processed. And the composition of the complaint is board. Like, for example, maybe when you are discussing with the person who is complaining, you may say, okay, I will go to COOPI office, discuss with our procurement or staff. Then I will contact the supplier. We will check the quality of the items. Then we will come to you with the feedback. If this person, no, I don't want you to go to the COOPI office, but the person may suggest other alternatives. So you agree on the latest proposal that the person may suggest. Okay. So you, after the agreement, you make the person sign, you write the date, and that person puts his or her signature.
In complaint user
Yeah.
in that box.
Yes. This one, I mean, in this part, you write the date is written here. Then this person will sign. Make sure that you have a printed copy. So the fourth section, which says response and appeal, I think this will be filled after the feedback. This will be filled after the feedback. Okay. So just let us jump this one and go directly to number 5. When you made this person sign the consent form, which is number 3, you give this one, you detach from your paper and give this one to the person. That means appointment date or the response date that you are going to response date and place. For example, you can say COOPI office or your village, maybe. Okay. Then you write agents. I mean, you sign it here now. The staff will sign here, and you write the date that you completed this form. This part will be detached and given to the person, so that the person, if that person is literate and can read and write, he or she knows the date that the feedback will be given and also the place. If there is, for example, your response may be on phone call, maybe simple, and you can just take the person's phone number and you prefer that method of feedback. Just you write the feedback number, I mean the phone number, and you call on that date and give the feedback. But you have to put what you did on your paper. Going back to number 4, it says remedy or response to the complaint or feedback. Now you write the feedback here, the feedback you collected from the complaint. You explain to the complainant or the person who's complaining. Then you come to the decision. Accepted, okay, take it. Not accepted, you take it. Not appealed. For example, the person may accept. If he accepted, the things are maybe over, so there no further appeal. But if the person not accepted the feedback, there are 2 options. I don't accept, but I don't go further for further appealing, or I don't want to go further, but I'm not satisfied. Still, you have to try to satisfy the person why is not accepted. You explain further. Anyway, it is another option. If the person goes for appeal to, for example, to Kabele or to hire manager from COOPI, you write that one. Then you write the date. The person has to write, to sign that accepted the complaint or decided to go further with the issue. Then the staff name who received this feedback. Okay, so I am through with this format. It is only, we are running out of time. The second sheet, you know it. I think last time, those of you who were in the meeting, you know this one. This is where you report. The first one, the first template, it is for receiving and giving the feedback of the, to the complainant or someone who's complaining. This one is the reporting tool. It is the reporting tool. You write the date. Just you put information that you you collect the information that you put in the first template, and according to the column headings, you register it here and report to us. That is, yeah.
Okay. Just give me a moment.
I think through just 2 minutes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Sam. If there is any question.
So, thank you. Thank you, everyone who have listened to all the 3 topics. Just to make sure everybody understands me, all the documents we have discussed today, the beneficiary registration, the complaint feedback, and the first topic delivered by Yared will be shared later with the full recording of this session. It is because we don't have much time right now. I want to make sure to include and thank you, yes, Ayub, and thank everybody who participated. Ayub, at the moment, we only have 4 minutes left because of the subscription of Zoom at the moment. So my idea is, in some hours, I will share the recordings and I will share the templates. When we are done, when you receive the templates and the recordings, you can reply to us and write all your comments and all your questions today, and everybody will receive the questions. So again, thank you so much for participating. The documents and the recordings will be shared today. When you receive them, you can come back, click reply all, ask your questions, and we will happily respond to. It is my great thank you to Dr. Molu, Mr. Yared, and all of you here today to participate. Thank you so much. You can log out the meeting.
Thank you very much.